Hello. Today we're going to be discussing the impact of restorative practices from the perspective of three different high school teachers in San Diego. My name is Jen Vermillion. I've been doing restorative practices work for over 5 years now in San Diego County. I will be moderating our interview today alongside my friends and colleagues, Laura and Trevor. Laura, why don't you start off by introducing yourself and then we'll move to Trevor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Anderson. I'm a restorative justice practices consultant. So I was introduced to restorative justice practices at Crawford and then proceeded to do some circle work and community building throughout the district, San Diego Unified School District. And I'm happy to be here.
Hello, I'm Trevor Tillman. I'm a senior at Point Loma Nazarene University. I've been involved in restorative practices since 2015, since I've been a sophomore in high school. And it was actually because of Jen and Laura coming to my high school and training our class and these things that I really got involved and continued after high school. And so I'm still a part of it, still using these principles that we learned in a high school classroom. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, but also to Lori, Sonia, and Gwen, our three panelists. We so appreciate you sharing your time and your experiences with us and anyone else who will be watching. Do you want to start off maybe introducing yourselves and share a little bit about how you became involved in restorative practices? And maybe we can start off with Lori and then we'll move to Sonia and Gwen.
Sure, sounds good. Hi, I'm Lori Williams. I'm currently the College and Career Pathway Coordinator at Lincoln High School. My journey with restorative practices started back when I was a juvenile probation officer in Kansas City, Missouri, and how we approached restoring a young person back to full faith in their community. And then I was privileged to be a part of this work of introducing these concepts to the classroom at Lincoln, where I taught the administration of justice classes for 8 years.
Hello, my name is Sonia Badu Thompson. I am currently a literacy bureau coach for San Diego Unified. I started with restorative justice practices when I was teaching at Crawford. Laura came to my class and asked me if I would be willing to do circles. And since I was a new teacher, I thought it would be an awesome way to be able to build relationships with my students and have them build community within our classroom.
Hi, I'm Gwen Osgard, and I'm a teacher at Crawford. And Laura came to Crawford and was working with Sonia and was working with Faith Wilson, who was kind of my teaching partner. And so we've been using community circles for years, but we began to work with circles for restorative justice with Laura. So that was great.
Great. Why don't we hear a little bit about the impact that this work has had on you, both as an individual and then an individual and or as an educator?
As some of the other people have shared, first I'm a mother and a wife, and wife then mother, and then and that had probably the biggest impact in my personal life, just being able to in how I parent and how I even approach my marriage and friendships, just some of the conflict resolution and the principles of restoration and how we circle up and even have family meetings. And then we kind of transfer that into the classroom, that we want to build a healthy family atmosphere. And a lot of my students come from homes that, maybe they're not having good examples of how to resolve conflict. So we talk about how we want the classroom to be safe. What should a family atmosphere feel like that is safe, and that we're going to practice those things in the classroom. And if you've been around Lincoln High School and our alumni, they talk about being hornets for life, and that oftentimes, there are classrooms and there are teachers where they do claim us as family, So we know that this works. And that's been one of the biggest benefits, is being able to get to know students at a deeper level, being able to listen. As a white woman coming to work at Southeast San Diego at Lincoln High School, teaching about justice, circles was the way to go. That's what helped me acclimate and learn to understand my students, because I listened through circles. And it was through that process that my students embraced me as well. And what has really been key in developing my relationship and my reputation in the community and in my classroom.
I think basically, as an individual, I think circles definitely reminded me that you have to listen to understand, and maybe not to jump in or solve something or fix something. You're just really listening to understand. Also, the whole idea of a safe space, because the main thing, you need people to feel like they can be vulnerable, and being able to be a place of comfort for people in my workplace, when I'm working with students or other educators that I've coached, or even in my home life. You have to be a safe place for people to be able to feel like they can be vulnerable. And that takes a certain amount of trust and understanding, and again, that listening ear. So just making sure that you provide them with those opportunities, because I know it's very hard for a lot of people to be vulnerable, especially some of the students that we have in just any community. It doesn't matter the income or, what schools, especially teenagers, they are the most vulnerable group. So just giving them the opportunity to know that they can trust me, and that whatever they say, kind of like with the circle, stays with us, and it's a safe place for them.
Circles have been a really great way to get to know my students, and for my students to get to know each other and build community. I'm part of the Law Academy cohort at Crawford, and so we deal with some really heavy topics. We deal with things like human trafficking, the community relationship with the police department. So before we get into those really adult and difficult and deep topics, it's important for us to build community, and also to have that trust that Sonia is talking about, and that safe space. And so using circles has been really good for the kids to get to bond with each other and trust each other. I also really appreciate the fact that we can get into student-led circles. And even if I have to start it out having, kids or the groups that have been trained and come in and do, bring in different topics and do circles with our kids, it's been a really great way to see kids interact with each other and to see kids lead the process. So it's been a growth experience for me as well.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And Trevor, I know, you're not an educator in like a formal sense, but you have a really unique perspective in that you are involved in this as a professional, right? You're doing restorative work as a professional, but also your first introduction into it was as a student. And so I think it would be really great to hear from your perspective about what sort of impact you experienced with restorative practices, both from a student and now as a working professional.
I would say doing this has really taught me how to be patient and seek more understanding. Because I remember you and Jen were probably in that circle I did. I think it was our junior year, maybe our senior year. And one of our classmates opened up about how his dad was like a pimp, and he used to do like gang stuff, and he did like bad things. And I would have never had pictured one of my classmates doing things like that. And it taught me that you should be kind to people, because you never know what they could be carrying, and your words carry power. And that's just like one small segment like I've taken away from doing circles. But I would say even in a broader thing, like living off campus and living with some of my like best friends, there's like tension and there's conflict. And sometimes I have to like the mature me has to realize like hurt people hurt people. I need to like dive deeper and use the tools I've been given to resolve conflict in different ways. And I'd say the biggest thing is ask the right questions. Like, and I think doing restorative practices, it teaches you how to ask the right questions of like how someone's day is going. Why are they frustrated about something instead of being reactive? And so it's definitely matured me and given me the right tools to handle other conflicts in life aside from just things in school.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Trevor, do you want to lead our next question?
Yes. The next question I want to ask is, when did the restorative process really click for you? And please explain what happened.
When the restorative process really clicked for me, when we had an incident on our campus. This was quite a long time ago, but it made a lot of news when we had a school police officer tase somebody in the parking garage. And the tension and the anger from the community and the students, it was palpable. You could feel it. And we came up with a plan. Thankfully, we had just started doing circles with my class, and this the saying came to me that, you can either put your hands out and receive people's emotions, or you will find yourself going like this to block them because they're going to throw them at you. So if we have circles and you say, let me hear this, let me hear your frustrations. Let's, as a community, acknowledge in the hurt and the pain and the fear and all the feelings that are going on. Then you won't be going like this later when they're coming at you regardless. And that we had students go out and lead this work. The whole entire school took the morning, and all classes were canceled. It happened on a Friday. And the Monday morning, I had gotten a hold of students. They came in early, and we said, okay, it's go time. And we deployed students with adult backup to go and do circles school wide, and getting the feedback from teachers and administrators and students about that process was really positive and an important step in our healing process.
For me, I would have to say I was at a middle school, and I was asked for an admin to hold a circle for a group of girls that were considered to be a difficult group of girls. And I had never really met these girls, and we sat down in the library. That was the space that had been designated for us. And I don't even remember what the first question was, but I mean, these young ladies just purged, and it became clear that they just needed someone to listen, and they needed to be able to have that space to be able to say everything that's going on in their lives, how they feel about school and their treatment of school. And in a very short period of time, I mean, these young ladies gave me more information than, like you kind of said, are you going to take it or block it? Like, because it was some very powerful information that they shared. Young ladies' dad was in and out of jail, and how that was making her feel, and all of the siblings that she had, and how much she just wanted him to come home to her and be able to be there for her and her siblings. It's really heavy stuff. And, that just showed like these work, and students of all levels need these circles. And these young ladies weren't problems. They just had a lot that they were going through.
For me, circles as restorative at the next level, past just community building, really clicked in the training. So when I'd already been doing restorative circles at Crawford, but when I went to the training and was kind of on the other end of it, with my peers as a group member, working through things that I needed to work through, it really, really clicked for me. And I think that the training is invaluable for all staff members.
I love all of your answers. They're very on the heart. The next question I would like to ask is, what would you recommend to teachers who want to implement restorative justice practices in their classroom or school?
I would recommend that definitely try it. If you have the opportunity to observe a circle or two or three, to do that. I would also recommend and caution that all circles are different, and to be okay with quiet. That there are sometimes awkward moments of silence in a circle, and that's okay. I would also recommend that to keep that open mind and really emphasize that listening is participating, and to not try to force someone to say something, but that listening and just being present in the moment is a really important form of participation, especially these days when we're all so used to scrolling on our cell phones. That if you can get kids to sit in a circle and not have their phones in their hands while they're doing it, that's a huge win. And just to listen, that it's as much as that you will grow as much as any student might grow, and take a position of gratitude and of humility in that circle as you and really point out the physical attributes of the circle, that you are at the same level as the student, and that we all have responsibility. There's just so much, and it's so powerful. And it can, if a day is getting too tough, it just feels like everything's off, it's okay to say, you know what, I need something different. It feels like we as a class need something different, and do a circle and let it, and say, who feels this as a safe space? How do we move forward? What would make you feel space? And have those heartfelt conversations. And now more than ever, I think that's important.
I would definitely advise to try and participate in a circle, go through the training so that you have a better understanding of what that feels like as a participant. And I would also say be patient. Everyone isn't going to be vulnerable or answer the questions the way you may want them to. Some students might pass. You might get a lot of passes the first go around, but be patient. It takes time to build trust and in community, but it will definitely pay off in the end.
Yeah, I echo the try to go to the training and definitely try to view other circles. Get a veteran teacher who's been doing circles to come in and work with you on your circles, or somebody from the restorative justice team to get yourself started, and make sure that you know all of the steps, because it's really important to set up the norms and all of those things first, or else success, you may not have success with that first circle. So just make sure you go through the steps. And kids like order and organization anyway, makes them feel more comfortable too.
I love that. Laura, you want to take it from here?
Sure thing. So what would you recommend to students who are just beginning their involvement in restorative justice practices?
I think I would encourage students to really follow a lot of those norms, like really listen from the heart, speak from the heart, take a chance on being real, little bits at a time. I always tell kids, you try something on, you don't go run a marathon the first time, in a new pair of shoes. So, try on little bits. I would also recommend to students that, gauge the maturity of your classmates and be a leader. And that, if somebody is talking, people handle discomfort in different ways. And so be prepared to understand that somebody just may not be comfortable, and that's on them, but not to take that as a reflection of the student's leadership, but to have those, side conversation later to still stay in the restorative mindset and seek understanding as to a reaction you may have gotten in a circle space. But that student leadership is so important, and just really praise them for that courage, and that it's a journey, even as students, is just as they've seen, with me as a teacher. I don't always get it right the first time, but to keep up the work, and reflect and come back and do it again.
I would tell students it works if you work it. Show up as a human and give grace and really treat people how you would like to be treated in your heart of hearts. Keep doing it until it feels natural. It's not necessarily going to feel natural the first time talking to a group of strangers, people that you may not know, and people wanting you to trust people that you may not know. However, if everyone follows the norms and keeping things in the circle and listening with an open heart, then the trust will come. And just really be patient with the classmates, the person leading the circle, and just think of those people as your grandma. You wouldn't want anybody to hurt your grandma. So think of everyone being like your little grandma in the story, or whoever is nearest to you. Think of everybody in that circle being that person and treat them how you would want someone to treat that person.
For student leaders, I really want them to know to be confident, because whatever their topic is, whatever the questions, whatever the agenda for that circle in that day, the students are going to be more focused on them than they would have been for anything that we were going to do otherwise in the class. It's an exciting thing to change the room configuration, and it's even more exciting to have peers lead than have a teacher lead. And for the participants, I think the most important thing always is a foundation of respect, that no matter what happens or what's said, that everyone has to be respectful of each other.
Right on. Love it. I'm going to ask you, Trevor, we've got a student leader right here. What would you recommend?
I would say be open-minded, because sometimes it's uncomfortable doing something new, and it's hard sometimes getting emotional or leading other people's emotions or stepping into a role of leadership. But I think with anything, when you're given leadership or something you're unused to, you rise to the occasion. And so I would say be open-minded, have the courage to step into something new and hold space for people as you want space held for you. Because I think this is God's work in different ways. I think we have the ability to shepherd people's hearts and lead others in good ways. And so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. More than two, I'd say. Any final thoughts?
My final thought is it's such a treat to be able to hear from Trevor. I remember, doing some joint activities and seeing you in action, Trevor, when you were at Crawford, and to see you and just hear how this work has shaped your perspective and helped form you as a young man, and I can hear that calling on your life, and I'm just really excited to see where you are led, and just bless you. This has been a treat, and it's after a hard day at school today. It's cool to see some of the harvest.
Oh, I love doing this. I remember there are a few times in high school where I remember doing circles, getting called out of class to go run circles for Deborah Sadler or Mr. V. And the class was just like all over the place for different drama, boyfriend, girlfriend problems, and people gossiping. And I remember just sitting in these classrooms and asking the hard questions, and other people would interrupt. And like, as someone who is like leading this discussion and given this position, you can say, of power in different ways, like I saw the power of the work that we do in resolving conflicts and in creating peace in a classroom. And even if people didn't always become friends again, there was a harmony or like an agreement to say, okay, this is what happened. We may not like each other anymore, but like we'll agree to disagree. Like, and it's beautiful work, and I'm glad to have been a part of it and had Laura and Jen pass me the baton. And yeah,
I just appreciate having this conversation with like-minded people, and thank you. It was a nice way to end the day.
I have one more final thought. I'm just thinking of something that Trevor said about holding space for people and how important that is. As we're sitting here on a Zoom call, what's different is we all have our cameras on. We're all being seen right now. And for the last year and a half, as kids are still coming out of COVID classroom PTSD, so often kids did not have their cameras on. They were not seen. And so doing circles and holding space, as Trevor said, for kids to be seen and be heard, it's essential. And it could save a life. So those that are watching this, thank you. Those that are on here know me. I tear up all the time. So I'm not going to apologize. That's who I am. But this work is that important, and it is something that fills you up and literally could be life-saving.
I just want to appreciate those who have viewed this video in its entirety. There's been a lot of wisdom shared here in this space, and it's really powerful. And it's similar to the wisdom within each and every circle, as you find your click time and again. But it's a powerful offering. So I just appreciate you being open-minded by listening to this video and considering it. And I encourage you to go for it. So thank you.